Good morning, Ray. How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you very much. Yeah, lovely morning. Nice bit of sun.
Yeah,
What's not to like?
absolutely. So, well, first of all, thank you very much for contributing to this little bit of research I'm doing. Would you like to just start off by telling a little bit about yourself and your business? We'll take it from there.
So, a little bit about me. So, my background is accountancy, auditing, and operational excellence, Lean and Six Sigma. Fell out of love with auditing because I think there's more to life than just doing the numbers, and I wanted to actually fix problems. So I got into working with a small company, and from there I started learning more of the technical skills on Lean and Six Sigma. I think they're a really good match. If you can do the numbers and you can do the fixing the problems, I think that's been an advantage. I've spent many years talking about going into business on my own. I'm gonna. And finally I was given permission about 6 years ago from my wife. And initially my business was about consulting, and it's the same business model. It was all about consulting and how to transform businesses. And I came against one small snag. Unfortunately, I couldn't find any customers in the Yorkshire region. So I had to go and do it down in London, which worked really well. Nice piggy bank. But that's not what the vision was. The vision was to lead a team of people and do it where I live in Yorkshire. And so came back up and invested the money and went again. So my business is all about transforming businesses. So I do that via developing the people. Big advantage to me is I am very focused on building a marketplace, not just doing the consultancy. So we're partnered with, we deliver apprenticeship training, and that's a challenge to get on that list. We are partnered with CMI, Chartered Management Institute, CIM. So qualifications matter. So I try and work through people. Hopefully that answers for you, Rob.
Absolutely. And as you were talking there, you started off by saying about the accountancy, the numbers, and the Six Sigma, and you can fix problems that way. And once or twice in my past, I've met people who are really, really good at that, but they kind of fail, if you like, at the people bit. So for me, the holistic leadership is about understanding all that, but understanding also people. But I'm hearing also you're investing in the future. I mean, my motto is thinking towards tomorrow. If you're dealing with apprentices, I mean, you're looking at the sort of future workforce here, and you're training them. And I made reference to the note that you put in LinkedIn, that sort of little quiz you set up. So yeah, you're big about the future, Ray.
Yes. So people perceive an apprentice as a 16-year-old. Well, actually, we could be apprentices. You know, you could be 99 and be an apprentice. For me, it's about upskilling the workforce as well as bringing on the next professionals, the next leaders in organisations. It's all about the future. So no one quite does what I do in the way that I do it, which has some advantages, but it also has some challenges because it's not normally the expected way of doing it. But I want to be in charge of I call it the SAS, which is an elite small team who are highly professional. They enjoy what they do, but that allows me to get into businesses and transform them. That is really what my buzz is. And I know ultimately it's the people. It's all about the people. And if I can create a good impression and I'm part of their learning journey and we push them and we get them qualified and they get recognition and they get promoted, why would they not want to send their next generation to get an even better experience? Because we need to keep learning.
Great. And again, you made reference to the SAS, your team, and one of your responses to the question about the 3 challenges that you faced was having team retain trust in you and your vision. So can you just share with us, within the bounds of confidentiality, of course, how you generated and maintained that trust in these tough times with your team?
So I think I've managed different size teams and different size organisations over many years. Most of the time, it comes from working in a big organisation, and you've got the power position, or you've got money to recruit somebody. It's different now. It's different. I'm an entrepreneur, and you haven't got that source of power to be able to have that sort of influence. So I think some basic rules for me is be transparent, be honest, and try and make it a collaboration. I think I look as leadership as very situational. So if you can't adapt, therefore you're gonna falter. And I kind of feel, for me, it comes from a place of being vulnerable. So if I'm vulnerable, therefore I'm not going to try and take control of a relationship. I'm going to try and work on the collaboration, because ultimately it's a two-way thing for me. If I can't get people to see my vision and buy into my vision, it's either because I'm not very clear at communicating, or it's the wrong vision, or we're on different pages in terms of strategy. And I look very much on behaviours. I don't think there's anything I've got that is top secret. So even the finances, I'm not sat on £1 million. So telling people I'm a startup and I'm trying to build something and give them the full story, I don't think I'm giving away a lot of top secret information. So why hide it? You know, if they're interested and they're professionals and you can work with them, I think it's just being as truthful as you can, as open as you can, but making sure the accountability sits in the right place.
Yeah, it's that old thing, you can delegate authority but not responsibility. Yeah, absolutely. Collaboration is a wonderful thing, and it has its strengths and its weaknesses. Yeah. So in my experience, where I've worked with leaders who don't collaborate, they've got a very firm style of leadership. Probably some might label old-fashioned. I'm not judging either way, but they surround themselves with people who work like that, and it works for them. But when you sit it alongside other people and see how the world is moving on, they're a little bit kind of alienated. But some people will never change, and that's just a fact of life. Yeah, collaborative. Okay, communicating the survival strategy was another of your challenges. Was it about the communication, or was it about the strategy that was the challenge?
Probably the communication. I mean, it wasn't a complex strategy. It was retain the learners you've got, or return the income you've got. Try and keep the relationships for the commercial offering that dried up. The frustration was this was going to be our year. So if I look back into February, we were really ramping up to these commercial opportunities were coming on. People liked us, and this was it. And it's just what we needed at the right time. And suddenly that went away. All went away. And I've obviously built up a relationship with certain people on this journey. You've got to make decisions. And it was being as clear and concise as possible about what the decisions were, and where they were collaborative decisions, make sure I involved the people, but where it was ultimately about saving the core of the business, that was my responsibility. And that was a case of just communicating and just getting everyone to accept we're all in this, and not to break any relationships. So it wasn't, I've got the power, I'm the core of the business, we'll cut people off. It was, what can we retain? What do we need to scale back? But what can we do, because we're here for the bigger win? Even though there's a big crisis, it was a case of, we want to retain the relationship, we want to retain what income we've got that we can help you with, but equally, we can't hide from making tough decisions.
Mm.
And to be fair, working on strategy and working on business plans is, from my background, it's pretty much my bread and butter.
Indeed, and that's really interesting too, because I had a conversation with a prospect. So I was 9/10 of the way. We were going to go ahead with the work. He's no longer a prospect, and that's not me being vicious. It's just the fact that the conversation we had was, so he was faced with the same as you and everybody else, and he said, I can't do it. I'm putting my hands up. I'm just folding. I'm letting people go. Why should I bother? And the tipping point for him, I think, was he was one of these guys that runs his business in a way that didn't get support from the government through, the director who takes the dividends type thing. Now, I don't know his own personal circumstances and whether he was able to kind of retire gracefully and enjoy his life, but it just struck me as rather almost defeatist. That there was no thought given to it. It's just a quick decision. Right, we're going to cut. That kind of fail fast thing. Whereas you, on the other hand, have gone, okay, we've got a problem. Let's be realistic about it, and here's what we're going to do, as opposed to the other. So, all power to your elbow, Mr. Byrne. All power to your elbow. Okay, so I asked the respondents on a scale of 0 to 10 how challenging it was. So you were one of two that scored 5, which is in the low quartile. Most people were in the high quartile. Can you give us a bit of insight as why you only scored it 5 out of 10 as to how challenging it was?
I've been through worse, so it's probably as simple as that. So if I'm looking back, literally 2 years ago, I was a one-man band, and I think I have a reasonable range of talents in a reasonable amount of areas, and that's a good thing, and it's got me where I am today. But in truth, it wasn't getting me anywhere near what my vision was. So actually, it became a weakness. So I changed my psychology, and it was more about how to remove control and how to work on influence. So I had to have a bit of a talking to myself, and it was very much, what's my biggest problem? My biggest problem was cash flow. So I had to go out and get a bank loan for the business, which I could do. I could do that for you, Rob. I could go out and get you to spend £1 million, and I would make sure that £1 million was spent in a really, really efficient way, and it would do all the right things. Talking to yourself and doing that is a bit of a weird experience. But basically, I got the investment. I invested it in people, and we went to the market, and through an awful lot of hard work, we didn't actually get any traction. So 6 months later, they were at the end of their 6-month contract, and I'm facing no income, no opportunities, nobody can see what I can see, and I've got a large debt. And it was a pretty desolate time for about 2 weeks. It wasn't millions of pounds, and it could have gone on the mortgage, but that wasn't the purpose. It was running the business, and we got our first apprentice a week after that, which wasn't any use to us. No use at all. 1 is not good enough. I needed a minimum of 10. But if you don't start, you don't move on. So we moved into 1. Then we got 2. Then we ended up getting 5, and then suddenly we're on 20. And so from that low point of, bearing in mind I've got a family as well. And this is what I've invested in. So all my eggs were in this basket, and it was failing. So therefore, what do you do next? Where do you go? You've got all these things to think about. And we came through that, and we started growing the business, which created the tempo. So when COVID came along, looking back, it felt quite a natural thing for me to go back into my database of, yes, I know my financial background. Yes, I know how to make financial decisions and cash flow forecast. And I found it quite an easy process, because I was able to take in all the information that was there, make the right decisions, get people involved, and move on fairly quickly to just try and then start getting the people to talk about what is the growth strategy going to be when the economy wakes back up. So it doesn't make me a superhero, doesn't make me, it probably makes me probably someone that's been through more experiences than probably a lot of others, that's given me a little bit of a memory bank.
Yeah. Again, I'm just sort of seeing there other people I've talked to both in this way and offline. They've got the scars, if you like, to use a horrible phrase. They've got the scars. You know, they went through the recession. They've been through tough times. And indeed, one individual he said that probably the biggest challenge was the first week when he didn't know which way was up, where he was at home. He was homeschooling, he was looking after aged parents, so all things which he hadn't foreseen coming. But nevertheless, after a week of acrobatics, he settled, you know, he sorted it. So I know what you mean. But again, it's down to that situational management or leadership, isn't it? It's all about playing the cards that are in front of you.
I totally agree. Totally agree. And I talk a lot about people. And it's people, you know, you're driving through it, and just like you, Rob, I'll have visions. What culture do I want when I get there? When I build my own business, what culture do I want? And when times get tough, it's very easy to chuck all that out and go back to, you know, dictation and this is what we're doing. It was nice that we were able to retain the culture that we'd start to build. And decisions were made around people first. Now, that does not mean it didn't affect people, it didn't affect me. I certainly cut back to the bare bone. My team, in fact, were willing to take a pay cut. You know, they knew that I was invested, they knew that I would put them first, and they came to me and said, look, no, we're in this together. You don't just build that overnight.
Wow, that's trust and loyalty. That just all the way through, that just shone. Yeah. And you're the first person I've had a conversation with where money from a okay, we're in a tight situation. Money has been actually vocalized. I've known and I would respect the people who told me some of the things that they've told me, and I wouldn't repeat them. So I know it's gone on, but you're the first person who's actually said that, and the team came to you. Wow, you must be very proud of that team.
I am now, and it just shows you behaviours matter, and that's the one thing that I have learned out of this is I'm all into change. I talk about change management all the time, but again, when times get tough, you see people's different behaviours, and I think, in a way, COVID's been quite good for me. I know that sounds a bit of a craze, because certain relationships with certain people, they've shown some people with negative behaviours, and they've drifted away. So when it got tough, they moved away from me and the business, whereby some people lead into the business. So if I sit down there now with all the pieces on the table, I think a bit of luck, a little bit of judgment, but do you know what? I think we're a stronger group for those that got closer, and it's all on behaviours.
Yeah, and I know this from experience, but both from the military and in industry, that good leadership in adversity brings people together. It holds people together, and they learn from it rather than this kind of explosive and destructive thing, which again I have seen from a distance. But yeah, adversity and that challenge and that disruption can be good. So I know exactly what you mean. And I've had a number of people say to me, well, kind of embarrassingly, COVID's been quite good for us, whether it be financial, whether it be the chance to shake the business up and, you know, take a real good hard look, because all of a sudden now they've stopped to take a breath and they're wondering why they're spending this on that and why this person's doing this. So it's presented a massive opportunity. And I've always believed that in chaos there is opportunity. Okay, so you made the comment, my approach is fair but firm. Have you got any kind of military background? Because that's something we used to hear in the military.
No. I've got no military background. However, I can recognise the discipline and the resilience in people. So I've got many books about people that have come out of the military. I can recognise it in business. So none at all. And I know I mentioned the SAS, but it's all about the purpose and the outcomes, and ultimately it's about training the people. So no, I've never been. I love an assault course and I love a mud run. Yeah, but and I like the discipline to a point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, as an ex-military person, I never loved assault courses, and I can't claim to love a mud run. But one of the guiding principles as a junior manager that you get taught is aim to be fair and firm, firm and fair, whichever way around it is. And that's really easy to say, but as you learn your trade, if you like, you get challenged. So I just wondered, because I hadn't heard it in a while. And it reminded me of a guy who used to say, I'm firm, fair, and if you get out of line, I'm ferocious. Firm, fair, and ferocious. Okay.
I kind of work on a pendulum. I can be sometimes over fair because I do come across as quite light-hearted, and I am generally. But if the pendulum starts to move, then my approach will change as well. And so I am fair, and I can be. I suppose, is it a weakness? It can be a little bit fragile. I can be over trusting. So sometimes if I commit to you as a person, I will give you every opportunity to make that happen. But and then I get to a point where it swings to the other side.
Mm-hmm. Understood. Yeah, I recognise that, and I can see again how in adversity that kind of flexible approach is much more helpful than the rigid approach. And again, that's not me making judgments on people or situations. They deal with it how they deal with it. But from my beliefs, from my personal background, life, etc., I believe that's a better way, a more open way to give people the opportunity. Okay, so one last question, if I may. What piece of wisdom would you impart to the world about anything you've learned, but nothing that you've mentioned already, because that would be boring. No, it wouldn't be boring. But what wisdom would you give us?
What wisdom? That's a good point. Good point, Rob. Wisdom. I don't think I've got a great deal of wisdom in me, to be fair, but grit and having a trust in yourself. So when I knew, when I was going through what I felt was my darkest business hour at the time, when there were people saying, give it up, Ray, stop it, even when it was that, it was, for me, I still believed in what was there. Granted, I was probably the only person on the planet that could see that, but there's and that's trying to not be naive. So that's been quite tough on yourself, but having that great determination, but believing what you're doing, as long as there is reality there.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much indeed. So just a reminder that before any of this gets published, I'll send you the link so you can view it and obviously give it your explicit sanction. Apart from that just leaves me to thank you very much indeed for your time and your input.
Not a problem, Rob. Cheers.
Okay, see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.